Welcome back everyone, hope you're all doing really well. Sorry I haven't filmed for a while, I haven't been feeling very well the past few weeks, and also the weather hasn't been great either. But today I wanted to talk to you about my favourite flowering plants for a tropical style garden, just based on what I've been growing for the past 4 or 5 years. So in no particular order, I'm just going to go around the garden and show you some of my flowering plants. So I'm going to start with one of my favourite plants in the whole garden, and that is this beautiful Alstroemeria. This particular variety is called Indian Summer. So you can get lots of different varieties of Alstroemeria, all different colours, and I love the fact that they flower all summer, all the way up until autumn, and they also multiply. And this one I picked up last year, I think springtime last year, from Allington Lane Garden Centre, which is one of my local garden centres. So this particular plant flowered all the way up until I think mid-autumn, and then I chopped it back when I overwintered some of the other garden plants and mulched over it. But then I noticed in January, when it was really cold, it started to regrow, so I had to chop it back again and cover it. So it seems to be very hardy, which is something I look for now in plants I'm buying for the garden. After we had such a bad winter and I lost a few plants, I'm definitely swaying more towards the plants that are hardy and I know that I'm not going to lose. Here's the other one, which I decided to pot up on the patio. As you can see, there are many blooms. It's so beautiful, really eye-catching, nice and bright. So definitely one of my favourite plants in the garden, and I would highly recommend if you're looking for something that is hardy and beautiful. Next on my list is the begonia. I've got a few varieties of begonia dotted around the garden. This is one of the waterfall varieties. I just love how vibrant the flowers are. Again, these flower all summer, all the way up until autumn. These are annual, so I do have to replace these each year, but they're not very expensive. I really like that these waterfall varieties hang over the pots. So I either usually put them in larger pots so they can kind of trail over the side, or I put them in hanging baskets. But I do have another variety of begonia here. This is a really pretty coral colour. I've got another couple of begonias here on the patio in pots, and then I've got one in a hanging basket up here. Again, I got these from Allington Lane this year. Great for a pop of colour around the garden. The next flowering plant I'd recommend for a tropical style garden is the canna lily. These are absolutely gorgeous. They come in loads of different varieties. I leave mine in the ground and mulch over them in the winter. You can find videos where I'm overwintering the plants in my tropical garden playlist, but I basically chop them back in the autumn and then just mulch over them. So they do come back each year. This is actually a new canna that I picked up this year because I lost my cordyline that was growing here because of the bad winter we had. So I decided to fill it with this Cleopatra canna. This is one of my favourite varieties. I just love the, even the foliage on its own looks amazing with the purple and green. I love how each leaf comes out completely different and unique. And also the same with the flowers. So the flowers are actually red and yellow, but the more purple you've got, the more red you'll get in the flower, and the more green, the more yellow. So at the moment, because these leaves are all purple, I've just got a pure red flower. So I'm waiting for these to get a bit taller and to flower, and there'll be a mix of yellow and red. I do actually have a Cleopatra over in this border that I've had for quite a few years that does come back every year, but as you can see, it's been kind of strangled by all the plants and it's not really getting enough sun here now, so it doesn't really do very well. I might actually dig it up and move it. There it is, hidden away underneath the honeysuckle. And I've also got I think it's a Durban there as well. Again, not doing very well because it's not getting enough sun in this border now. And then I did pick up a second Cleopatra canna to go on the patio in this pot here to give this side of the garden a bit of colour. But hopefully in a couple of weeks this one will start flowering. And again, these flower all summer all the way up until autumn, and again they multiply as well, so you can divide them and move them around the garden. You can dig them up and dry store them over winter, or you can chop them back and mulch over them, depends whereabouts you are. And then I'm also growing one more variety of canna at the back of the garden, which is one that comes back every year, but this one is grown more for the foliage rather than the flowers, because it produces these huge leaves. It's not looking very huge at the moment, but this gets really tall. It gets to about 6 foot tall and produces these huge almost banana like leaves, but I don't think these generally flower here in the UK. I think it's quite rare, and this is the Canna Champion. I'll have to show you it later on in the summer when it's got a bit bigger, but you'll be able to see it in my videos from last year. So again, this is one I leave in the ground and mulch over, and it always comes back. Had this one for about 3 years, I think. So yes, I would highly recommend cannas for a tropical style garden. But one thing to bear in mind is that when you're looking to purchase cannas for the first time, if you haven't bought them before, just make sure you get them from a reputable seller, because sometimes the tubers can be virused, so it's better to pick up a plant that's already a bit established. I have actually had cannavirus in the past from tubers, and you can usually tell once the plant starts getting like 3 or 4 leaves, if they're coming out like distorted or streaky, stunted, it's usually a sign of cannavirus. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to tell, especially when the plant has only just started getting like 1 or 2 leaves. You have to wait until they've got like 3 or 4 leaves, but sometimes depending on the variety it can be a little bit difficult to tell. But I would recommend just googling cannavirus so you're familiar with it. But as I said, as long as you're purchasing from reputable sellers, then you should be okay. The next plant on my list is the beautiful Crocosmia. Again, you can get these in lots of different varieties and colours. I think this one is Lucifer, and again these flower for quite a long time during the summer and they multiply. So originally I started off with a couple of really small plants, and they've multiplied over the years, and I've moved them all around the garden. And then I've got a smaller variety growing here in the centre, and I think the flowers are a bit more of an orange colour on this one, but I can't actually remember until it comes out. You can just about see one flower that's come out there. And then at the back of the island here I've got another variety which is more of a golden kind of yellowy orange colour, really pretty. They just provide the garden with so much colour, and I love that they multiply, so I probably will divide a few of these this year and spread them around the garden even more. Originally mine started off in a pot on the patio, and then I moved them here in this corner in the border at the side, and then a couple of years ago I dug some of them up and then moved them into this centre island, and they just look really lovely here, just giving the centre island a bit of colour, and it fills out the area really nicely. The last flowering plant I wanted to show you today is the beautiful honeysuckle Dropmore Scarlet. Again, you can get honeysuckles in lots of different varieties. I think I'm growing 3 different varieties in my garden, but this is my favourite, and the bees absolutely love it, and it produces these beautiful orangey kind of coral coloured flowers. It does go a bit wild. I do have to chop it back quite a bit, but I quite like how wild it is. It's very jungly looking, great if you want to cover a fence, or if you wanted to grow it up something. This one flowers all summer all the way through to the autumn. Again, this one started off as quite a small plant about 4 years ago, and it's really taken off. I've got another variety here in a pot on the patio, although I don't think this one has produced any flowers yet. It's not really getting much sun here, so this one is a bit behind. This one is the drop moss scarlet that's grown all the way across. This one produces more of a peachy coloured flower. I can't quite remember the variety, but it's really pretty. But the drop moss scarlet is definitely my favourite, honeysuckle. I do have a few more plants around the garden that are currently flowering as well. One of them being this lovely hosta. And then we've got the hydrangeas, which are only just coming into flower. And then a new plant that I picked up this year is this beautiful fuchsia. Apparently it's hardy, but we'll see. Picked this one up from Allington Lane as well. Such a beautiful colour. It's the first year I've had a fuchsia, so I'll keep you posted on how it does over the winter. Because it's in a pot, I can actually move this under the pergola for the winter. There's a few succulents around the garden that are also flowering at the moment. This one's really pretty. There was one here that was flowering, but I think it's finished now. And it's being a bit strangled by the hot lips. There's another one at the back. This one. My Lily Hotel California has just finished flowering, unfortunately. It's so beautiful, it's one of my favourite flowers, but they just don't last very long. And we had some wet and windy weather last week and it just literally blew all the flowers off, which is really sad. I'll attach a picture of what the flowers look like on the screen for you. But I wouldn't really have it in my top 5 just because the flowers just don't really last long enough. My hibiscus doesn't usually flower until the end of the summer. These are really beautiful flowers, but again they don't last very long. But this is a variety that does come back every year. So if you are looking for a hardy hibiscus, I would recommend this one. And you'll be able to see this on my videos from last year if you'd like to see what the flowers look like, although I will do an updated video later on in the summer. And then we've got the hot lips, which flowers all summer. Has gone a bit wild. I keep cutting this back as well, but it keeps growing back. And in my opinion, pretty hardy because it did survive our awful winter that we had. I've only just spotted that my clematis is flowering. Usually this flowers a bit earlier on in the summer. But this one's looking really nice this year. Beautiful purple flowers. Again, this is a good one if you want something that covers a fence, or if you want to grow it up a pergola or something like that. Nice and hardy, comes back every year. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of my top 5 favourite flowering plants, and let me know what yours are in the comments. Take care, everyone. Happy gardening, and I'll see you all soon.